Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into something pretty fascinating, the world of Bollywood's three Khans.
Right. Giants of cinema for decades.
Absolutely. But what's striking is how different their private lives are, especially their love lives. And we've got this source, yes,
That's the one.
and it puts forward this really compelling theory linking their relationships directly back to their family bonds.
Quite a specific angle.
It is. So, our mission today is to really unpack that how interpersonal relationships might mirror these familial bonds. Specifically, the source talks a lot about mommy issues, and we'll explore that through these huge stars.
Yeah, the core idea from the source is, well, pretty direct.
Hmm.
It suggests that how you relate to people, especially romantically, is a direct reflection of those very first family connections.
Hmm.
And it argues this really impacts romantic life, particularly for men who are, let's say, exceptionally close to their mothers. That makes you think, doesn't it, about those foundations.
Definitely. Okay, so let's dive in with the first example. Salman Khan, often called India's most eligible bachelor.
Still, even now.
Right. Even approaching his, late 60s? Still incredibly popular, huge career, obviously, but it's his personal life that's always under the microscope.
Constantly.
The source mentions this pattern: endless affairs, half-baked love stories, tragic ends, and scandals. It feels like he's always almost getting married.
Always hairline close, yeah.
And then, nope, stays single, even though the source says he's been lucky when it comes to women. So what's the source's explanation for this? Why does he never quite, tie the knot?
Well, the source doesn't mince words. It points straight at what it calls mommy issues.
Right.
The core idea it presents is pretty stark. Men who are more than close to their mothers usually are unlucky in love.
Wow, okay.
And it goes on to say explicitly, it has nothing to do with luck, love, or the woman. It is, in fact, the involvement, meaning the involvement with the mother.
The mother's involvement.
Yes. For Salman specifically, the source says his life is in the hands of his mother, and that he's too close to the point of obsession.
Obsession, huh? That's strong.
It is. And get this, there's a quote in there from his father, Salim Khan, the legendary writer.
Oh, right. What did he say?
He apparently observed, he, Salman, manages to find the perfect girl, and then he involves his mom in the relationship.
Wow, from his own father.
Exactly.
Mm.
Quite telling, right? The source really pushes this idea that most men or boys who are madly in love with their mothers hardly enjoy a successful personal life.
Why, though? What's the reasoning?
Because, it argues, there's only one woman who can rule the heart of a man, and there are times that woman is your own mother.
So the mother fills that primary spot.
That's the implication. And the source talks about this bar concept. It suggests these mothers become paradoxically intertwined with their sons' lives.
Okay.
They set the standard so incredibly high that, quote, it is impossible for any mortal woman to reach there.
Right. So any potential partner is automatically compared and fails.
Subconsciously, yeah. The source suggests these sons avoid a serious commitment if the partner is not like mom. And actually committing might feel like, well, like betraying their mothers.
Making any other woman inherently second.
Precisely. Now, the source does acknowledge, a healthy mother-son bond is normal, obviously, but it makes the point that it can get creepy when it is not within healthy limits.
And Selman's case is presented as an example of that limit being crossed.
Yes, where his mother is described as his absolute emotional anchor.
Okay, that's a very clear, if maybe controversial take on Salman from the source. What about Amir Khan? Another legend, brilliant actor, but the source says he's just as unlucky in love.
Right. Amir's history is also quite eventful, according to the source.
Yeah, it mentions his first marriage to Reena. They had kids, but then divorced, apparently calling the marriage a mistake.
Regrets on both sides, it says.
Then it mentions scandalous affairs, one with a British journalist, Jessica, resulting in a son.
Yes, that's in there too.
Then his marriage to Kiran Rao, film writer. They had a son, Azan, but they also separated after nearly 10 years.
Another long relationship ending.
And now he's apparently dating someone named Gauri, but the source isn't sure if it's true love. So, does the source apply the same mommy issues framework to Amir's pattern?
It does, very much so. It presents Amir as another key example supporting this theory.
How so?
Well, it highlights his deep, deep devotion to his mother. She's quite elderly now, well above 90, it says.
Wow.
And Amir is described as just this incredibly dedicated son, loving her like there is no tomorrow.
Okay.
And based on that, the source draws a really direct conclusion. Amir cannot and will not find his ideal woman.
Cannot and will not.
That's the phrasing. Because, it argues, that essential place has already been fulfilled by his doting mother.
So, again, the primary emotional space is occupied.
Exactly. And I'm touching on something else interesting here. The idea that some mothers in these situations don't really allow their sons to fully grow up,
Yep.
leading to what the source calls kidults, adult men who are still in some ways emotionally dependent.
Kidults.
And the implication is this makes forming a mature, equal partnership really difficult. Because, as the source points out, a woman seeking a real partnership cannot settle to be a second someone.
That makes sense. You want to be the primary partner.
Of course. And there's this observation the source makes, kind of intriguing. It says these men might, have a wild day out and come back home late in the night to their mothers.
Okay.
And crucially, these moms do not find anything wrong with their sons and their erratic personal lives. They often forgive them for any wrong or right.
So the mother becomes almost an enabler, reinforcing her central role.
That seems to be the dynamic the source is describing, yeah. It solidifies her position as the unchallenged fessor in his life.
Okay, so that's Salman and Amir, both fitting this pattern according to the source. But there are 3 cons. What about Shah Rukh Khan? He's arguably the biggest global star of the 3, and he's famous for his very long, very stable marriage to Gauri Khan. How does he fit into this mommy issues theory? That seems like a contradiction.
Well, this is where the source gets really interesting, actually, because it uses Shah Rukh Khan as a contrast.
A contrast? How?
Exactly. His situation, his incredibly stable marriage to Gauri, which is, let's face it, pretty unusual in Bollywood.
Definitely an outlier.
The source attributes that stability directly to a different family dynamic, specifically concerning his mother.
Okay. What was different?
According to the source material, Shah Rukh Khan's mother passed away when he was quite young.
Oh, right. I remember reading that.
Crucially, this was before he became a huge star, before he was fully adult, and importantly, before his marriage to Gauri.
And the source connects this timing to his stable marriage.
Yes. The argument implied is that because his mother wasn't there during his adulthood and the formation of his primary romantic relationship, she couldn't become that emotional anchor or set that impossibly high bar in the same way the source suggests happened with Salman and Amir, who had their mothers deeply involved in their adult lives.
So the absence of that specific dynamic allowed Gauri to become the primary figure.
That's the logic presented. Shah Rukh was, in a sense, free to form that primary bond with his wife. Gauri could become the undisputed #1 woman in his emotional life without that subconscious comparison or competition that the source highlights in the other cases.
So his commitment to Gauri is seen as possible because that primary maternal space wasn't already filled in the same way during his adulthood.
Precisely. She is his primary emotional anchor, and that role wasn't already occupied according to the source's framework. So Shah Rukh Khan, ironically, becomes the exception that proves the rule, reinforcing the source's core idea about the impact of that maternal bond.
Wow. Okay, putting it all together then. This deep dive really highlights a, well, quite surprising connection the source makes between those deep family bonds and how relationships play out later in life.
Yeah, the challenges, or, as in Shah Rukh's case, the successes.
And it really hammers home this idea that, particularly when the mother remains the central woman in an adult man's life, it creates this almost insurmountable standard for anyone else.
That subconscious comparison thing. Yeah, it's hard for anyone else to measure up to that idealized maternal figure.
Unless, like the source suggests with Shah Rukh, that specific dynamic just isn't there in the same way.
It's been a really fascinating look, hasn't it, into how those very first, very deep bonds, especially with mothers, can, well, paradoxically shape adult love's lives in ways we might not even realize.
Absolutely.
The stories of these Bollywood cons, at least as our source presents them, really do offer a kind of powerful, maybe even provocative illustration of this complex dynamic.
Yeah.
It certainly makes you think about those foundational relationships.
It really does. And considering these examples laid out by the source, it prompts a question for all of us, doesn't it? What kind of subtle, maybe subconscious influences from our own early family connections might be playing out in our relationships right now?
That's the big question.
And could understanding these patterns, maybe the ones highlighted here, actually help us navigate our own search for partnership, perhaps build healthier connections? Definitely something to think about.